Good morning. Welcome back to Journey Home Meditation. We're doing the live stream and the live session at the same time. It's an interesting conundrum, but I am ready for a morning of some breath work, some contemplation. We're going to do some poetry of Michael Spring today, and that makes me happy to be here today. In fact, I'm just going to, let's begin with just a few breaths. There's no need to do anything special right now with your body. Just notice your breath, where you're at, and pay attention to what your body is doing with its posture. You don't change it right away. Just recognize what you're carrying in your body in this moment. Connect the way that your breath feels to the way that you're holding your body, and connect that to the thoughts that you've been having this morning. Connect that to the feelings and emotions that you've been either experiencing or holding back just enough that you're aware that they're there, but you aren't necessarily associating with them. And let's do 3 breaths, breathing in through the nose. And breathing in. And breathing out. I am breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. It's a good practice to recognize any shift that you've felt, even in just those few breaths. Notice how you're holding your body, where you might have tension or where tension may have left the body. Connect your thoughts, your emotions, and your physicality, what's happening inside of your body, all to the breath, and recognize yourself there. Find all those things that create what you would call you. And see how they shift. This morning I had a bit of a meditation bell in my thoughts pretty early that I'm being asked to meditate on death again. And I'm always grateful for that. It's something I'd like to do every day. It's something I feel appreciative of the times when I hold that practice as sacred and necessary. And so when that thought came to me this morning to meditate on death, it was easier because I had spent the last couple of days both experiencing new birth of new relationships and new journeys and ventures that were going on at Journey Home, and being with those who were acutely surrounded in the awareness of death at two different memorial events for our friend Michael Spring. And it made me remember that death is happening inside of me, not just to other people. It's not just to other things. It's not an externality only. And I'm not even sure what is external some days. And so I started breathing in with the thought that this is the last breath. And then the out breath was, I am awakening. This is the last breath. And I am awakening. And in doing this practice, this is the last breath. I am awakening. I start to envision everything around me as sort of falling inward, like I am maybe sinking downward and things are coming in with me. And it's the going away. It's the going away. Everything is going away. Everything is coming back to us and leaving us. It's just this flow. Jack Kornfield, the teacher, meditation teacher, and sort of friend to many, he says that, I just read it this morning. I'd like to actually get this quote correct. I have these handy coasters for under teacups that I got from Love, Serve, Remember Foundation. And this has a beautiful quote by Jack Kornfield. He says, in the end, just three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, how well we have learned to let go. And so as I'm sitting in that meditation this morning, and I'm envisioning everything sort of going away, but the going away was the coming in, and it was also the letting go. It was, I don't know if it was a moment of revelation of any sort, but it was a beautiful practice to say goodbye in the moment, to be able to enrich my love for everything and everyone. Because when we have these new beginnings and these new loves and these new joys, it can become so terrifying, the prospect of losing them, that we actually block ourselves from being fully involved. Whether that's a new job or a new friendship, a new romantic relationship, a new hobby, whatever it is, the memory of loss that you haven't been able to understand yet can act as this safeguard against opening your heart. And if you're not able to step fully through this threshold and you're holding something back, then you never truly get to experience fully the sensations of what it is to be a part of this thing. And the second casualty of this is that you're keeping part of yourself out of it. And so there's a piece of you that's hidden. And when there's a piece of us that's hidden, oftentimes it's hidden in shame or guilt or fear. And when we step into that loving relationship and our coworkers say they appreciate us, or our friends remind us how much they love us, or our romantic partners tell us that they adore us, whatever it may be, there's a small part of you that's not stepped all the way in. And because of that, you won't believe them as much, because there's a belief that you're carrying that says, well, if you only knew about this part, you would not love me. And that part that we think is unlovable is that part that we can't carry and we can't let go. And we only believe that because we haven't learned how to release that. And so the practice this morning was falling in love with letting go. And as I was thinking about that everything around me is going away, I started recognizing it was all coming inward. I think something that helped me with that was at Michael Spring's memorial poetry reading yesterday and book release. One of Michael's very long time deep loves and best friends, Ryan, asked if I would read a poem from the new book. And the poem that he asked me to read was the first poem of the book, and it's the first poem that I read in the book when I picked it up. And it immediately drew me in when I first opened the book a few days prior. And I just felt like it is a poem of a person who has spent the time recognizing that with everything being temporary and everything comes from the same source, then everything is recycled and everything is the same, including his own weakening body. As Michael Spring was a poet and a martial artist. He was a friend to so many people all over, and always a loving advocate for place. He loved being of this place, and he loved giving to this place, wherever this place was for him in that moment. And it comes through in his poetry as he seamlessly talks about place and things, not as things, but as people and as others, and others as himself. And he has these consistent metaphors that he comes to about hands and the breathing of different objects of his focus. And this poem felt like a really amazing goodbye and recognition of that shift of becoming something. It's titled, I Leave Behind the Fool I've Become. Because I no longer talk to the azaleas, nor to the flowering dogwoods, nor to the thrushes or bees or earthworms, I'm afraid the world inside me has no fish in the lakes, no visible stars, only smoldering cedars and partial dreams sinking into partial dreams. I'm afraid I'll never again see the stone buildings of my ancestral home, and I'll dissolve like a sand sculpture in the rain. That is why I've unplugged myself from my house, and I now lean over listening to this green moth on a green leaf. That is why I leave behind the fool I've become. I'm under the last street light before the walkway over the river bridge. The green moth floats into open space, becomes the moon rising above the mountains. I can sense a new future self watching me. I know I will find him here on this path where stone flows and folds away from the city, where rocks look like bones and internal organs, and the mossy trees look like breathing animals. I really love that Michael was a master martial artist and Sifu. He was a teacher to a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in the Valley. I never knew Michael in the work that he did as a martial artist. I didn't even know that he was until talking to other friends. I only knew him as the poet and the friend in the Valley who was just of this place. And it made so much sense when I learned he was, just because of his collected demeanor. He held himself like he could. That he knew that he could. He knew that he could hold himself because he practiced holding himself. And that makes a difference. And so when somebody with that level of practice over decades of their lives attains sort of mastery of these skills, to hear him open into the vulnerability of humanness with, I'm afraid I'll never again see the stone buildings of my ancestral home, and I'll dissolve like a sand sculpture in the rain. I'm afraid. That he begins, I'm afraid. And I think that oftentimes when we are afraid, we are so often told not to be. I know that I have a habit, like when my children express to me a fear, I have a bad habit of taking that fear and telling them not to have it. No, don't be afraid. This and this and this. But in doing that, the lesson that I'm imparting on others and the lesson that's been imparted on me is that your fear is somehow not welcome. Your fear is bad. And so don't have fear. I don't want to hear about your fear. So when we can come through and say, no, I am afraid, there's a deeper recognition of our human connection than I think we're even aware of. And that's so necessary in the death meditation practice. When we meditate on everything going away, it is necessary to welcome and invite in our fear about this. And to love that fear, and to hold that fear, and to learn to carry that fear. Some of my favorite teachers around death and grieving talk pretty openly about not wanting to die. And it's so refreshing, because when somebody is teaching something that seems so unattainable to me or unfamiliar, it's hard to connect and to feel anything but inferior. But when a teacher can come and sit down with you and say, look, I don't want to die, but this isn't ever been about what I want. This has to be about recognizing what is and loving it. If this practice is not about recognizing what is and loving it, then it's just holding off the inevitable suffering of wishing you were different. And if I'm going to be me and be in this body with me every day, and in this mind with me every day, and in these emotions with me every day, every moment, for the rest of my life, I would do well to love that me. And to know that that me is going away, so that I can love it even more fully and release it when I need to. That's where my meditation is taking me today. Let's do a few breaths together. Breathing in and breathing out. Find your meditation posture in your body. This is a non-violent practice, so be careful about moving your body into a position that would cause harm or discomfort. We experience enough discomfort in our lives. We don't need to make a practice of adding more. But find that place in your body that facilitates this breath. Straightening the spine comfortably, bringing the shoulder blades together behind you, just enough to open the heart and open the chest. As we breathe into the bottom of our belly, I'm breathing in. I am breathing out. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Find your rhythm and be with that breath as it moves in, fully accepting what comes in and letting go fully when you breathe out. The simple mantra with the breath can be, I am receiving. I am letting go. Some days it's more difficult to receive. Some days it is more difficult to let go. But if we have the practice of the breath and say, I am receiving, I am letting go, then we are practicing a way of being that leads us into less suffering and the ability to be more present with ourselves in all of its forms and one another. When you're ready, just open your eyes gently and be kind to yourself, softly and slowly moving the body before you stand up or do anything. Just check in to make sure that you're aware. There's been many times I can dissociate from my body really well. I've practiced it a long time. Since I was a child, I was afraid of my body and its feelings, so I learned how to shut it off from the neck down. And I would stand up early in my meditation practice and yoga practices especially. I would just stand up to bulldoze my way through the rest of the day, and my feet were not ready for that, and my legs would just start to fall down. Or so just be mindful and aware. Do you have anything that you wanted to bring into the discussion today?
In particular, I don't know.
Any questions or any comments?
What do you know about Kundalini awakening?
What do I know about Kundalini awakening? Well, I know that in a lot of ways it's based on. I know that it's based on the Vedic teachings of the yoga practices, specifically talking about the energy flows that come up through the chakra systems, the main chakras. There are 7 main chakras, but the body has thousands of them, actually. 1,008 is one of the numbers that gets used a lot to represent these small energy sources in the body.
That's the one of eights.
Yeah, so what was this?
That's the one of eights.
The one of eights?
Yeah. I got a sign for one of eights, and I was wondering what it was.
Oh, okay.
That kind of makes sense to me.
And so I know that in recent years, there have been teachers and practitioners who have developed these methods for what they call Kundalini awakening, and they envision sort of the serpentine energies coming up through connecting all of the chakras. And there's been attachments to these chakras of different colors, different frequencies, and different sort of emotional states and different representations of our body. And I think that it can be quite helpful to bring our mindfulness to those aspects. I've had teachers who teach to be very cautious about how much we fall into method traps, including the meditation practice itself. But oftentimes there can be these methods that we want to then paint our world through those lenses. And what can happen is we can actually begin to separate from others and ourselves based on who has attained levels of achievement and who has not. And so we start to ascribe those things like, oh, you need your Kundalini awakened, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, a big thing you could say to someone if you were angry with them or wanted to be dismissive of their emotional state is, you need therapy, as if therapy were somehow a punishment for bad behavior. And I see that sometimes in the new practices. I think that anything that we do that brings us more awareness of our body is a good thing. It can be a great thing because so many of us have practiced not being aware of our body. And when we can connect things like the root chakra to our sense of security and our sense of well-being, when we consider its closeness, I mean, it's connected directly to our genitalia, which for so many of us is an unsafe place from childhood on. And when we can start to connect our feelings that we carry in our life of insecurity and unsafety with maybe things that happened or ideas that were implanted into our heads about our genitals and about our sexual ness of humanness as a child, then that's a good thing to start to reconnect with ourselves there and to heal that sense of security. And when we move up and we start connecting with our desire in the second chakra, and we're moving into these notions of releasing shame and guilt as we want to open that flow. So we then do that meditation, and we meditate on, why am I carrying shame and guilt, and why does it live in this part of my body? And it lives in other places too. But if we can have a focus, then it opens a door. It's an opening. And then we move up. We talk about our attachments and and then our decision making. How our attachments and connections to feeling connected either leads us to trust ourselves, or if our attachments lead us away from trusting our intuitions. And so we talk about that solar plexus. This is one of the most important ones in the breath work for me, is that meditation, because as I'm breathing with my diaphragm down into the bottom of my belly, my diaphragm's pulling down into my belly, and it's making space for all of those internal organs to be massaged as that diaphragm pulls down to bring air into my body. So when I have my awareness in that part of my body where the solar plexus is, now my body is becoming aware that I'm breathing with my nose more than I am my mouth. So instead of breathing and using the muscles to fill my lungs into my chest, I'm not using my chest, I'm using my diaphragm, which means I'm calm. You use our chest muscles when you have to run, when you have to fight, when you're scared or panicked. But when you're breathing calmly through the nose, then you're sending a signal to the solar plexus with the massage of those organs to release from the pituitary glands the hormone oxytocin. And so now we're getting hugs. Now we're getting calm, and we're balancing the cortisol that we've been receiving. So that solar plexus work is really good. It's really necessary. Moving into the heart, that's the generation of all of our electro pulses. And we've often reduced the idea of the heart as being a pump, but the heart's not only a pump. The heart is a generator, and it creates power. And so when we focus on that we are literally vibrating into our bodies from this heart source. This is why we use electric pads for defibrillation to reinvigorate the heart. That electrical pulse is something that's inherent in our heart, and that means that we're emitting frequencies. That's what EMFs are, electromagnetic frequencies. We emit. And if we are emitting, we are communicating all the time, and we are also being communicated with. So focusing in our meditation on that heart chakra, that can be really amazing to bring us back into love, which is connection, which is, in a lot of ways, connection is dependent upon some level of sameness. It's a scary thing to say, because a lot of times we relate that to our culture wars and our social understandings, and that's not it at all. Those are all beliefs and thoughts that aren't helpful. But the sameness in that we recognize I am you and you are me, the Beatles, we are all together, but we can do that with everything in our life. We can do that with our heart. We can recognize our connection to every living thing. Moving into the throat, talking about communication and how important it is to have a flow of communication, and then moving all the way up into the third eye, where we live in the dream life. This is where we see things as they are, not as we wish they were. And then coming right out of the top of the crown, there's a lot of cultures that believe that when we die, the soul exits out of the top of the crown. These are all helpful metaphors, all of these things. And they're really good to focus on these things and do these meditations. Focusing on the crown is focusing on your death. It's focusing on the leaving and the goodbye. And we can get stuck in methods. And so I just try to be aware how much I'm doing the method and not being with the uncovering. Yeah. I hope that answers a little bit about my feeling on Kundalini. What are your thoughts on Kundalini?
I had a great Kundalini awakening. I didn't even try.
The best kind.
I look back at the pattern and I'm like, who set this up? Who made all these decisions and put me here?
Hmm.
And it's been a wild ride. It's been pretty interesting.
Yeah. That's always such a welcome gift when we get the opportunity to kind of release guilt and shame around decisions when we recognize the gratitude for where we are. I love it. Yeah. So your energies are collecting, reassociating.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a trip. It's a real trip. I'm like, is everybody living in the same reality I am? Because I'm having way too much fun.
Yeah. That's where that important shift from I am at the center of everything to everything is at the center of me. It's like, oh, wait. It's all inside of me. Like I can access all of this. And it's so joyful when you can do that. It's so joyful. All right, friends. Thanks for being here today. And thanks for being here in this go round. Thanks to Michael Spring for the time he spent here. And I'm happy to have his words to carry through a bit longer. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:30. If you are in Southern Oregon, come by. Doors open at 8 o'clock. You're welcome to come in and have tea and stretch out. And meditation will start at 8:30 tomorrow. Hariom.